everyone. Welcome to this episode of Featured Interviews for kcrushmagazine magazine. I am your host, Caroline Hines, film culture critic and journalist. And today I'm very happy to be joined by filmmaker Koya Kamura to talk about his debut feature film, Winter in Sokcho, which showed at the 2025 Jeonju International Film Festival and had its premiere at the 2024 Toronto International Film Festival. So Winter in Sokcho is based on a 2016 novel by writer Elisa Shua Dusapin, and it's about this young Korean woman in Sokcho. So Sokcho is a northwestern city in Korea, and it's usually very cold. It's a beautiful city. I've seen pictures of it and videos of it in dramas and films, and but it's a tourist city, meaning that once the tourists leave at the end of summer, this city kind of dies down and becomes very quiet. And this is very integral to the plot of the film because it plays, I think, a very fundamental part to the character of Soo-ha, and played by Bella Kim. And I think the way that you filmed this film, Koya, is the atmosphere of Sokcho is very much a character in this film, and it talks about identity, and I think also our perceptions of people and ourselves through the way others see us. And I can't wait to talk to Koya about this film. But first of all, thank you for joining me, Koya.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be able to speak about the film, and it's always a pleasure to show it to audience, and then after that to discuss it. So really, again, thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you. So I first saw this film last year at TIFF for its premiere screening, which I was just very happy about. And the thing that really struck me about this film is it is very, I said Sokcho is very much a character in this film, but I wanted to ask you, what was it about this story in particular that made you decide to make your first feature film an adaptation of a book rather than a full original screenplay by yourself? What was it that you said, this is what I want to make my first feature film about?
I was actually working on another script at the time. That was a completely original story. And this story talked about a phenomenon that takes place in Japan, which is called evaporation. It's about volunteer disappearance, like when people suddenly vanished from the life. They just abandoned family, friends, jobs, place they live, where they live, and they just disappear and vanish. And I was working on that, and I was kind of struggling in the writing of the script when I read Winter in Sokcho, and suddenly I really fell in love with this character, with this story. And I had some kind of, when I saw the character of Soo-ha, she grew up without knowing her father, and I was in my previous script trying to write a story about a father that left his house and abandoned his daughter. So I was kind of in the counter shot of the previous story I was trying to write. And so I think that's decided me to make it my own story, and this is how I wanted, when I wanted to actually adapt this novel into a film. Also, for the record, I'm half French, half Japanese. The character of Bella Kim, Soo-ha, is half French, half Korean, and the whole story talks about this kind of identity, mixed identities. And so I was really compelled to this story and to this character, and so that's what made my mind.
We're going to get into the discussion of identities, but actually I want to talk about a theme that I think is prevalent in Winter in Sokcho, but also your a short film that you did called Homesick. And it's also, I think, within the films we just discussed, like the one you're working on, Evaporate, and then the other film that you said you were also working on, and that's the concept of looking for something. And
that's true.
So in Homesick, it's based after the 2011
Exactly.
Nuclear meltdown that happened as a result of a tsunami that hit in Japan, and it's this father, and he keeps going back into the no-go zone to look for his son's baseball, but he's finding objects for other people. And I watched that before I watched my screening for Sokcho, after Sokcho, with regards to the screening link that I got for this, because I was very curious. And I was just like, and I made the note, I'm wondering if you're looking for something through your films, if there's something that you're searching in particular for, and you're using films as a method to find it. So then hearing you say that your next project is Evaporate, on people who are disappearing
Yeah.
in Japan. And there is a documentary. I haven't seen it, but I know there's a documentary about the
Yeah, I
people
think that
who
one that
helped.
is supposed to come out soon, or that came out last year. Maybe I don't know. I don't
I think
know.
it came out last year because I think it showed
Oh,
at
yeah,
TIFF
okay.
as well because
Okay.
it's about the people who help those to disappear, because these
Exactly.
people don't just
Exactly.
disappear on their own. They have
Exactly.
someone who helps them. So, but in here you talk about these things, like all of these things have a very commonality, and that's people looking for something, whether it's identity, whether it's for a place for home, you know, whether it's for
Mhm.
a way to grieve, you know, like they're all looking for something. So I want to ask you about that. Is there something particular that you're looking for, that you're using films to your work as a filmmaker to kind of sift through and find?
Well, to be totally honest, I think I'm not really sure of what I'm doing when I'm doing it. I think it's like very instinctive, and the story I wrote and the film I wrote and the film I made so far were actually very different from what I thought I wanted to do when I was younger, when I knew I wanted to make movies. I always thought I wanted to make like blockbuster movies, very entertainment movies, you know. Yeah, with a wide audience films. But I don't know why. The very first film I started to write was this short film you talked about, Homesick. And it talks about a very intimate relationship between a father and his son, or between the father and the ghost of his son. And so it's only afterwards, after making the film, that I understood what it meant for me. And I feel like it wasn't about something that the character is actually looking for, but I think it was mostly about my own fear of kind of losing my kid.
Mm-hmm.
I became a father in 2012, so 1 year after the tsunami, and so all this together, I think, brought me to that idea and to that script. But again, when I started writing the script, I was thinking about, oh, this wasteland of Fukushima are very dramatically cinematographic, and I wanted to make a film about it. But it's only after making the film that I understood it was actually about my fear of losing my own kid, you know.
Mm.
And I think it's the same for the other project I made. I mean, I'm starting working on them without exactly knowing what I'm doing, without exactly knowing what is the deepest reason why I'm making the film. And it's only after I make it, when I see it and I realize, oh, that's difficult. That's what makes it. This is actually the point that I wanted to tell. Like, for instance, for Evaporated, it talks about that a father that evaporates and leave his daughter, and I realize it's actually very close to my own storytelling about like my own life and my father's life. He actually left few years ago, leaving back to Japan. He didn't
Mm.
evaporate it, but I felt some kind of, after I finished writing the script, I felt some kind of connection between my own life and the script. But when I start writing, I have no idea what I'm doing, I think. It's actually come along as I write.
Mm. Yeah, you just kind of like we would say back home in Barbados, you say you let the spirit guide you, you know,
Yeah,
like.
I guess so. I guess so. Maybe, or maybe I'm just untalented and I just don't know what I'm doing. You know, either way. In the end, I have a film, so that's enough for me. But no. But yeah, I think I don't know about the others. I don't know how people work, but I think it starts on an intuition, and then what you wanted to say actually reveals to yourself on the way, I think.
No, I get it. Because it's not on the same level, but when I'm writing a review or an op-ed or anything, I sometimes I have like the general
Idea.
idea in my head.
Mm.
But it's as I'm writing that it really starts to really form and take shape.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
only when I'm at the end that I read it, I'm like, okay, so this is a fully formed
That
idea. And
was
it
a
was
topic. Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, it does make sense, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Exactly.
so I get it. Um,
Exactly.
and I think like for Winter and Sokcho, it's the same way because like for Soo-ha, she is looking for her father, and you know, and she's looking for him in this man called Kerrand, played by
Roschdy Zem.
Roschdy Zem, because I was going to ask her to pronounce his name because I've seen some of his films before. You know, he's
Yeah.
such a very he has this intensity on screen. You know,
Yeah,
he's very
definitely.
enigmatic on screen, and like you can't help but notice him. But like she's trying to find her father in him, and I think not only her father, but she's also just trying to find uh someone who's different to her that she can connect to. because she's surrounded by Koreans, she's surrounded by people who look like her, who speak like her, who sound like her. So she's like, someone who's different but same, and so I see that similarity in your film, in your work, and like there's these ideas of like we're all always searching for something, we're all always looking for trying to figure out what is the next step for me in life. And like I think for your films that you kind of like deal with that but in a very abstract way, because even in Homesick, it wasn't only just about the father looking for the ghost of his son. He was trying to figure out, how do I move on, and he couldn't quite make that step, but he was
That's what I
helping
was
other
about
people
to
to move
say.
on.
Yeah, it feels like people are looking for something outside, like external. But in the end, I feel like most of my filming end up by answering to that search by well, actually, what I was looking was within somehow, and it's the same for Winter in Sokcho, as you said. Like when we start the film and we get this character, and she's, as you said, like kind of stuck in her life at this specific moment, and she maybe thinks that the solution or the next step will come from other people. I mean, from the solution will come from something else than herself. And the whole film is about how she will realize that she's the only one that can start to move on. It was the same thing with Homesick. It will be the same thing with Evaporated. So yeah, you're right. I didn't see it that way. Like its characters are actually looking for something, all of them. And I think most of them actually realized that they weren't looking at the right place. And yeah, they should have looked into themselves before, I guess.
Yeah, because even her mom, I think, is kind of stuck, but she doesn't realize that she's stuck, because she's stuck in the lie that she told Soo-ha about the father, like never knowing that she existed. And because she told that lie, she has to keep it up. And she did it to protect Soo-ha, but she doesn't realize how that in essence kind of hurt Soo-ha, because she caused Soo-ha to keep looking for something that she was never going to be able to find. But also because every time Soo-ha would mention her father or her connection to France and stuff, she would be visibly upset, and she'd be visibly uncomfortable. And it's like, it's a trap she set for herself, and it's just like, but she couldn't find her way. She also couldn't find her way out of that trap, because the only way for her to get out of that would be to admit her lie, and she doesn't want to
Exactly.
do that.
Exactly. But this is what I like about this relationship between this mother and daughter. And actually, it's going to be the same. You're right. With my next project, Evaporated, between the this father and this daughter that he abandoned, and it was kind of the same with Homesick. It's about these characters. I like the fact I love all these parents that feel like they're kind of sacrificing for the kids, and they're doing all they can for their children because they love them so much. And most of the time we're not perfect as parents, and sometimes we make wrong decision, but again we feel strongly deep inside that it's what's best, that this is what's best for the kids. But once you're in, like you were talking about this lie the mother said when she was younger, and she got trapped into that, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of event to happen to actually understand that maybe we went the wrong way, and we have to move backwards and communicate more and trust our kids more. Also trust them to be able to take what life has for them, to trust them to understand the decision we made before, even though they were wrong decision. And so I like this kind of relationship between parents and children. I think it's really beautiful. And again, I had no idea I wanted to talk about it before, but as I went through and when I watched the film for the first time in the end, and when it's done, I realized that it's very close from my own life, and I could have made the exact same mistakes. And yeah, I hope my kids to understand the mistakes I made were actually I thought they were in their interest at some point.
Yeah. And it talked about trust and identity. Something that I think is interesting in this film, and it's something that we as humans do a lot, is like the characters keep referring to Sua's proximity to France.
Yeah.
They like and I thought it was funny because she's never been to France,
Yeah.
but because she speaks French and she went to school and she studied French literature, people use that as an identifier of her. Like the first time we see her walking through the fish market, before we see her mom, like someone said, I said like they made a comment about her speaking French, and it was just like it's so weird that they would do that because it's just like she doesn't even speak French to them. But then when Kerrand is introduced into the film, people refer to him as the Frenchman, you
Yeah.
know, and even the owner of the guest house, he knows Kerrand's name because like his name is on the guest, but he knows, but he refers to him as a Frenchman. And I think this is a way to also talk about identity. And while a lot of people might think about Soo-ha is searching for her identity through Kerrand, like with regards to her father being French. I think it's also a way to talk about how we as humans we tend to like to label people very specifically rather than to just accept them as they are. Because to call someone the Frenchman rather by his name, like you're giving him a label that kind of ignores him as a person, but speaking of him as an idea, like what the idea they have of a Frenchman, you know, like the idea people have of her speaking French. And I think it's also a way to discuss class and status because that's a through line in the film very subtly because it's discussed when her boyfriend Juno, he talks about going to Seoul and about changing her identity and her face, not for herself, but to please people, to please the people looking at her. So I want to talk about that, about how you discuss identity without actually making it only related to be like personal identity with regards to like, oh, I'm trying to figure out who the other side of me is. You're like, no, you're also going to talk about class and status and how it's kind of looked at with regard in society that way.
Well, you're totally right. Like, I think, especially in the case of Soo-ha, the character is like, she's wondering who she is. Obviously, she's not waking up every morning asking herself, "Who am I?" That's not how it goes. You think you know who you are, but actually, you kind of every day, without even noticing, without even knowing, you're kind of placing yourself in comparison to the other as well. I think this is how I grew up and how I built myself. And as you were saying at the beginning, everybody refers to her as the French girl, like she's from France and she speaks French and she's taller than the other Korean. And I think, well, obviously in Korea, like immigration from foreign countries is not as strong as it is in France, for instance. So I can imagine, I can understand that for Korean native, I don't know how to put it in the right way. I'm sorry for that, but it can be so unusual that they would point at it every time. But the problem is even bigger when I'm from France. I was born and raised in Paris, and it's a very cosmopolitan city. Like we have immigration from everywhere. My father is Japanese, so I don't look as like the French you think, like you think about that. I don't look like Alain Delon, for instance, you know. And so growing up, I didn't look French, like for all the people around me, and I was often refers to as Chinese. I'm not even Chinese, but that was the main Asian immigration in France was Chinese. So I was in the same label as Chinese, and many of my friends, oh, okay, this one is the Algerian, or this one is from Guadeloupe, like French West Indies, and so I think, as you said, we are always trying to label people, despite of what they actually are. But it's a way, I don't know, it feels reassuring for people around us to be able to put a stamp on us. I don't know. And as you said, this is what I think the film also talks about. Again, I've never felt completely French living in France, and whenever I moved to Japan, I lived in Japan for a year, and I knew for a fact that I wasn't Japanese at all, because nobody saw me as Japanese either. So again, I wanted to talk about this place this feeling that you don't belong wherever you are, because of those two regions. And in the film, it talks about like French and Korea, but I think it's not only a matter of country or nationality. It's something that can happen on many other things. Like it could be the way you look, your appearance, your skin color, the weight. Like if you're chubby or if you're skinny, if you have blue eyes, like if you're very even your personality, someone curious, someone shy. It defines you some way, somehow, to other people. So yeah, this is also what I wanted to talk about. And as you were saying, it's true that most of the sorry, I don't know the word in English, but it's mostly Sua's surrounding that actually tells her how she should look like,
Mm,
or how she should act. Her mother tells her she should fix her eyes so that she doesn't have to wear glasses. Her boyfriend said she should make her chin different. It's really like everybody has an opinion on what she should look like. And I feel that that was very interesting, and that's what I like putting it this story in Korea is that especially in Korea the way you look and the way what you present to the others is very important socially to evolve. The car you drive, the salary you get, how you look, the way you
mm,
dressed, it's all very important. So I felt that as for Soo-ha, that he's in the middle of a identity search. Again, it's something that is unconscious. She doesn't claim for that, but she's kind of wondering who she is, and suddenly she has several different options to kind of define herself. I'm talking about physical definition of
mm,
herself. First one would be like aesthetic surgery, like physically change the way she looks. Another way would be to have some kind of control over her shape is eating disorder. Like the more you eat, the larger you get, the less you eat, the skinnier you get. And so it gives her some kind of feeling of control over her appearance,
mm,
and which is obviously terrible, awful. But I think this is what she's going through in this whole process. And also, as Kerrand, he's a drawer. He drives. He's an illustrator, and probably maybe she's some kind of fantasized to be drawn by him, like he would be the one that could define her shape again on a paper with his brush. So yeah, all these way of defining who you are physically was something I wanted to work on with Winter in Sokcho.
mm. And then speaking about like body image, because the something that I think is visually captivating about this film is how you use the art within the film to talk about the human body, and especially the
Mm,
female body. You know, like
mhm.
as you said, like Kerrand is an artist and he draws. You know, he's a graphic novelist, and so the first time we see the animation, the art of the human body being drawn is through his touch. You know, like he puts the paintbrush on the paper and he begins to
Yeah,
draw. That's when like we see the first line outline happen. And that happens after we are introduced to this woman. She has no name, she has no identity, and her face is just completely covered by these gauze wraps because she's had plastic surgery. Clearly, she's had her entire face done. And I noticed as the film goes on, we see more and more definition in the art. You know, like the human body isn't just abstract. We are getting to see these, especially women, because it's not just Sua's body. It's like the her mother's body and the women in the bathhouse body. You know, we see them
exactly.
being drawn fully as women. And then I noticed I was just, am I reading too much into this? But I noticed as we got more definition in the drawing, we started to see less wrapping on the woman staying at the
Yeah,
guest house. Like we start to see, we don't get to see what she looks like, but it begins
exactly.
to become like she's beginning to be revealed more and more. So I wanted to talk about her because she's a very curious character, because she is again a reference to how image conscious people in South Korea are. Like South Korea is the plastic surgery capital of the world, and they
Yeah.
are very much about appearances. Your character doesn't matter. It's assumed that if you're good looking, that you must be a good person. You know, so like that does play very much, as you said, a part into the film. But I wanted to talk about her and her connection to the actual artwork we see in the animation we see in the film.
Yeah, I really like this character, even though she doesn't appear that often. And it was funny because I went to Jeonju so a few days ago, and so I got the chance to meet the actress again, and I was really again sorry for her because like she's in the whole film, but we never see her face, you know. And actually, even we shot actually a shot where she's actually coming down the stairs, and so we can see her feet, then her knees, then her waist, then her torso. But then I wanted to cut it before we can see her face. So for me,
Mm,
it was important that in the end we do not the audience do not see the face of that woman because I feel like it's irrelevant, and I wanted to play like some give the audience some kind of curiosity to or what does she look like now that she has done her face all over, but I didn't want to give the audience any answer about it. So for me she represents somehow what Soo-ha could become if she went through the whole process. If she kind of listened to her surroundings, like if she listened to her mother, she listened to her boyfriend, she listens to everyone around her, she could go through all this aesthetic surgery and end up like this we called her like bandage lady. And so I felt that was very interesting to have this kind of projection. And also I have a lot of sympathy for her, because I feel like, yeah, she just this woman wrapped in those bandages. She just got tricked into human relation, like not human relation, like in society, under the society pressure somehow. And but still, I like the fact that it doesn't make her a bad person at all.
Yeah.
It's just a person, and everybody reacts differently to injunction, to pressure, to people, to what people are saying to yourself. So she just reacted this way, and I like the fact that she can also react. Like, there is this sequence where Soo-ha and her mother are having dinner together in a restaurant, and the mother say to Soo-ha, "Please eat, but don't gain weight," which is nonsense. And I don't know if you noticed, but at this specific moment, we edited a shot of this bandage lady, so it's a complete other place, other time. It doesn't belong in the timeline of this scene here. And she turns around. She's from the back, and she turns around when she hears the mother saying that. So I like the fact that, yeah, she can still react, and yeah, I really like this character.
Yeah, she is. She's a mystery, and she is. And I think I saw her not only just as Sua's potential future, but also for so many other young girls and women who are pressured by
Of course,
societies and other people's expectations to change who they are, not just physically, but even their thoughts and their ideas. Like,
of course,
you're being too progressive, you're being too feminist, you're being too independent. We need you to change and conform and hurt yourself in the process,
exactly,
do it to please us. It doesn't
exactly,
matter whether you could potentially die, because getting any kind of surgery is a health risk, and
of course.
it doesn't matter how much pain you go through to slice and dice yourself. And it doesn't matter if it's what you actually want. We want you to please us,
And as you
and
said,
that's
it's not only physical, it can be also in the way you behave. Like, yeah, you have to smile more. You have to be less funny. You have to be more this, more that. Yeah, it's on all ways, like not only physical. So yeah, you're right.
yeah. And like and it's just like, and I kind of saw that as a connection between her and Karan in an unexpected way, because what I think the film is very much about her trying to find her idea of her father through him. I thought it was that he was trying to figure out who he was as an artist through her
Mhm.
and through her eyes,
Yeah,
because he asked her to take him around Sokcho and that northern part of South Korea to like get inspiration. But I thought that his reactions to her was very interesting. It's like, you want her to help, but he doesn't actually want her to help, like, and sometimes her reaction to him is kind of off, because, like, for instance, when he comes down and he asks for a recommendation for a restaurant, she's like, why can't you, like, I'm preparing the food here. And
mm,
for me, as someone who's worked in the tourist industry, and who's worked in service industry, my first thing was like, that's not your place. Why are you questioning him? Like, he asked you for a restaurant
yeah,
recommendation. Tell him. Why are you questioning him? Like, he asked for help, and like, their attitude is very, it's not quite right. And I wanted to
yeah.
ask you about working with Roschdy and Bella to try to figure out their dynamic, because when I first saw this film, like, in TIFF, I was thinking this is kind of like an Oedipal kind of complex situation where she sees him as a potential father figure, but there's also this sexual chemistry. But then in rewatching it for this interview, I'm like, I don't think I don't think it's sexual chemistry at all. I think it's that she's so she feels so emotionally lost that he's the first person that she has, like, oh, he's someone very different to me, very different to the people I'm around, and she doesn't know quite how to wrap herself around that dichotomy. And so, like, so I wanted to ask you, because their dynamic on screen is very interesting, and like, especially because Rushdie is such a he himself is a veteran actor, filmmaker, writer, and everything, but Bella is like, this is her first main
Newcomer.
role, but like, their dynamic works really well. So I wanted to ask you about casting and working that out.
Well, you're totally right. Like, first, the Kerrand's role is kind of touchy, and I was kind of it was kind of difficult to sell it to Roschdy because I really wanted Kerrand to be like a blank page. I wanted him to be. I wanted the audience to know as less as possible about him. Really wanted him to be a blank page so that Soo-ha can project whatever she wants on this white paper, on this white sheet, on this blank sheet. And so, as you said, I think she's at a moment in her life, and she's stuck and she's very confused when she meets him, because he represents something that she should know. Like, she's French, she's half French, but she doesn't know anything about France besides that she learned the language. And so there's some kind of attraction repulsion, I think, with him. She's kind of curious to know more about him, but also there's some kind of I wouldn't say jealousy, but yeah, like, he represents something that she could be, something that she might want to be, like this French side, but she doesn't know anything about France, have never been to France. So I think she's very conflicted, and I like the fact that, yeah, she's kind of lost, and all along the film she doesn't really know if she's looking for a lover, for a friend, for a father figure. Yeah, she's kind of lost between all that. But what was mainly important for me is that in the end of the film, she understood that she can do without him anyway, whether it's a lover, whether it's a father, whether it's a friend, whether it's a mentor. She can do without him. She doesn't need him to move on. What can only help her move on is actually ask the right question to her mom and not let her slide out from her life. So that was what is important to me. But what was interesting in the dynamic between the two actors, and I'm talking about the actors, not the characters, is that we kind of had the same dynamic as the two characters, actually, because we have this French tourist coming to the pension. Well, he's very selfish. He's very egocentric. Like, he thinks about himself first, and he doesn't even notice what Soo-ha is projecting on him. It takes a lot of time for him to understand, oh, she might get some ideas, wrong ideas, and so maybe I have to step away from that relation. I didn't notice that before. So he's kind of selfish, self-centered. And on the other side, we have Soo-ha, who is actually eager to open up her horizons. And so meeting him is one way of opening this horizon. So, and for the two actors, sorry, Roschdy is like very, as you said, veteran actor. He knows what he's doing. He's been through all this like so many times, so much more than Bella or I did. And Bella was a complete newcomer, so I think she was at the beginning kind of impressed, but also kind of envy the fact that he's so experienced. And he was also very, very eager to act with that like fresh talent that represent Bella, because it's kind of new. There might be some mistakes, but that brings a lot to the dynamic. And so I think we could find this dynamic back between them, and that worked very well. I think during the whole process. And what I like is, like, during the whole film, I can kind of sense the change in the attitude of Bella, of Soo-ha. She's struggling a little more at the beginning, and the more we go, she's more and more casually talking to him. She's more and more relaxed, and I like this. I think it worked pretty well.
Yeah, it does. You can kind of see like how she kind of settles into the character. And I wanted to ask you about something. I was on your website and I was curious. It was like, should I ask? But I was just very curious because on your website I saw you have like what you called AI visuals, and this kind of ties into film because it's talking about interpretation and art and identity. And I was curious because I'm like, I'm why would a filmmaker want to use AI art? Because I noticed in the caption for it, you mentioned the word apprehension, showing that you were nervous about the concept of it and about using it. So I was like, but what? So I wanted to ask you about that, because I personally, I have issues with AI, especially Gen AI, because AI has been used like for years, but with Gen AI in particular in art, because it is like, it's becoming so commonplace, but I see it as a threat to art and to filmmakers. I wanted to ask you about that, especially since you said that there is apprehension.
The caption, I don't exactly remember what I said in the caption, but you're totally right. I'm completely terrified by what it represents and what it can do now. I'm very terrified by it. and also I have this kind of fascination. What I do so far is it's an amazing way to, again, I'm a debut filmmaker, so I don't have a lot of weight and a lot of power into the decision making of my future projects, you know. And the only thing I can do to convince people that they should believe in my project and my visions is to show them as my vision as close as possible. And so far, AI for me have been an amazing tool to make mood boards. So I will never, I think, uh, use AI to have like, how can I say that in English? Like AI can never be the final product. For me, it's really a step that can help me giving a support to the producers, financiers, whatever, to tell them, okay, this sequence I want it to look kind of like this. And with AI, I managed to actually make mood boards that are very convincing and that help me getting in the next step of the project, which is financing and working and creating this picture for real, like in real life. So yeah, this is where I am now about this AI question. I have no like religion about it. I don't know, like maybe in 2 months I will be using twice as more, or maybe actually I won't be using it anymore. I'm kind of in the middle and trying to navigate in all that for now. But so far, yeah, this is how I've been using it, like making mood boards that can be convincing, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because I kind of saw it as a connection to the idea of identity and art because like how would you as a filmmaker how you as a filmmaker define your art, and then like because the reason I mentioned it, because I will say I was apprehensive about asking you because I even told some friends, I'm like, should I
No, I
ask you?
understand,
Like,
no
so,
problem.
and but I am very curious about it because I am like, there's other modes of doing this. I understand when you said you kind of want to use it as like a proof of concept, you know, like
Mhm.
to give a thing. But I'm like, there's other ways. There's other things like Photoshop, Canva. There's other animation devices you could use, and I understand when you said like you don't like when, especially because you work for Disney and you work for
Yeah,
other like you do, what's the word I'm looking for? Commercials for other companies
yeah,
like for Red Bull and stuff. And like it is becoming very prevalent, especially I'm not sure how it is in France, but here like North America, especially within Hollywood itself, is becoming very prevalent.
yeah. No,
And
it
like
is the same
there's
in France.
is the same in France?
Yeah, it's same in France. Yeah, it's getting very more and more common. There's less and less jobs like concerning like
Mm.
what people used to do before. So yeah, it's I think it's the same. Maybe not as fast as in the US or in North America generally, but yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, people use it a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah, like I
big
have a
companies use it a
conversation
lot.
with other film. Yeah, I have a lot of conversations with other film critics and journalists and writers and stuff, and like we're all like, and not only about the aspect of losing jobs, but just like the fundamentals of art and
Yeah.
film as an actual art form. And I'm terrified. Like you said, I am the same. I'm terrified.
I completely understand. And again, I have absolutely no answers and probably no answers that will satisfy anyone for sure.
Mm,
But I'm just truly speak my feelings on it. It's like I'm terrified, but also I got to admit there's some kind of fascination.
mm,
It feels like suddenly I can try to picture something that very quickly that is very close to what I have in mind, and that what would have taken me like maybe a year to actually make. I'm talking about like only one frame, you know, and yeah, so yeah, I'm terrified slash fascinated slash confused. So, and again, also I have some kind of how can I don't know the word in English, but I kind of feeling bad to be fascinated by it, but also um, I feel like I still want to kind of explore it and try to make it the best use as possible. And again, I'm no producer. I'm just using it like to help me like showing the vision. But yeah, I have no idea where it's gonna go in the end. But yeah, I'm very conflicted, I guess.
mm. Well, at least one thing you're not conflicted about is what your next work is going to be. about, and again, that is kind of tied into what we were talking about searching and finding, and like trying to figure out what's next, and
Yeah.
and even in that, I'm looking forward very much to your next film, Evaporated, because the idea of people willingly disappearing themselves from their world and their family fascinates me, because sometimes you think to yourself, I wish I could just disappear,
Yeah, I think
especially when everything is.
everybody went through this feeling at least once in their life, and I think someone telling you that no, it hasn't, never happened. I'm not sure it's completely right, completely true at least. So yeah, I think it's a. I'm very looking forward to make this film. Hopefully, I will be able to make it, but yeah.
I'm sure you'll be able to do it, and maybe you'll find some, maybe you'll find some. Either you'll find more answers or you'll find more questions. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? But
Maybe
weather is fine actually.
I know, right? Maybe you're like, what? I have more questions. Let me do another film about
Yeah,
something else.
exactly. This is how we go, like from one to the other.
Okay, so I
Yeah,
want to ask you about the coloring, because
yeah,
before I mentioned Sokcho is a character within this film, but something specific about Sokcho is the look of Sokcho. Because the thing is, like when we see some place that looks cold, in like the cinematography of this film is very interesting, where it looks very cold and crisp. Like you can feel how cold it is in Sokcho coming through the film cinematography of this film, and like the guest house that Soo-ha works in and that Kerrand is staying at, it's called the Blue House. But I noticed that the colors in the film aren't actually blue. It's kind of like a teal. It's kind of like this sea, it's like sea blue or sea
yeah,
green,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
it's not like a strict blue. But then
It's a
as
grayish blue.
it's a grayish blue, and I wanted to ask you about that because I noticed like Soo-ha, she wears like teal scarf, she wears like hints of blue and green.
Yeah.
The room that Kerrand stays in has shades of green. There's bits of it all over. But then and I don't think it really had anything to do with spring where the color begins to warm up. I think the color changing has to do more with her emotional state, where she's beginning to find answers for herself. Like you said, like she realized, I don't need to attach my identity to this stranger. I can find it
Mhm.
for myself. So like her color starts to change. She starts to wear maroons, and like
Exactly.
more vivid colors. So I wanted to ask you about that.
Well, you said it all.
All right.
Yeah, that was that was the intention at the beginning, but I didn't want it to be like too obvious at the same time. So again, it's my first film, so I'm not sure if I had the balance right or not. I don't know. I just tried something, and we talked about it with the DOP, Elodie Tatan, director of photography, and also with the production designer, Heinke, and we wanted to have this kind of evolution in her the way she wears colors. And as you said, I wanted it to be kind of monochromatic. The whole film, I wanted it to be like kind of monochromatic, like in between gray and blue and brownish, let's say. And I wanted her to be evolving a little bit, touch by touch, just as the animation sequences also evolve. They start like very black and white, and suddenly you get some tint of like pinks and reds. Um, the more we go forward in the film. So yeah, that was the idea to mark this kind of evolution. But also, I'm really happy that you say that you can feel the cold, and you can feel like it's very like I don't know, like yeah, you can feel the snow and everything, because it was very something that I wanted to obtain. I wanted to film to be very like how do you say in English, like you can sense it, you can touch it, like the in French is sensoriel. I don't know how
You
to
mean
say it in
tangible?
tangible, exactly. Thank you very much. Yeah, exactly, tangible. And so we actually worked quite a lot with again the production designer and the DOP, Elodie, so that the audience can really feel the cold, can really hear the steps on the snow, see the steam on those plastic walls, like in the restaurants and everything. And so yeah, I really wanted to make the film very as tangible as possible for the audience. Really wanted them to be immersed in this winter cold atmosphere. And so the colors goes along with it, I think, and I hope.
No, it does. And who did the animation? Did you do that, or was that
No,
someone else?
I was working with this French animation director. She's called Agnès Patron. She's an amazing artist. She won a César, which is the like French Film Academy, for a short film that she made in 2021, I think. And yeah, we worked together. me and my co-writer wrote the sequences. We sent it to her, like we showed her. She gave us some feedback that were very, very relevant and very interesting, and she brought her own sensibility to all these sequences. And then she's been working with her team of animators, like painters, drawers, and animators. Yeah, like very old-fashioned animation. So I think it's like 12 image per second. So it's like a tremendous amount of work. And this is something that AI could have done in 5 minutes, but didn't want to do it that way though. And so that was amazing to see really the drawing becoming alive, frame after frame, and discovering this whole crafting, this whole, yeah, this is really magical, or like really magical. So that was amazing to work with her. Yeah, very grateful for that.
Yeah, and I love the animation in this film because seeing in the cinema, it's so striking to see it up
Yeah.
close. And because like I love what I really appreciated what you did in this film is how you filmed the female body. And like the way you just film all of the women, it feels like artwork. Like the sequence in the bathhouse, it just feels like art, just looking at these women, and like they
I'm
don't
so happy
feel
to hear that.
objectified. So I have to
I hope
commend you on
so.
that because
I
like
really
no,
hope so.
honestly, as a woman, I have to commend you on the way you film these women in this bathhouse because it felt like art. It didn't feel like the
Oh.
camera was just observing them like as a voyeur, because
Mm.
it was just like very much like the appreciation of the human body and of the
Yeah,
female
that was
body.
just
And
bodies. Like, I didn't want it to be um again, we have so much injunction like from around us, so what the nice body should look like. And the point is in of the film is actually to get rid of all that as much as possible. I know it's something that is not possible to get rid of all that, but at least in this film, in my film, I wanted it to be as um yeah, get rid of that and only focus on the body and accept our bodies the way it is. And so yeah, you're talking about this sequence in the bath where she's actually observing the other women and comparing herself to the other women, because I feel like it's a natural thing for human beings. But I really hope that all these women actually are beautiful, no matter they're skinny, like more chubby or whatever. Like, as long as it's very common. I'm really breaking. I don't know how to say, like, very usual. I'm not very, let's say, unusual in what I'm saying, but I really feel it's important to say it though. Um, as long as you accept who you are and the body you have, like the more beautiful you are, So, yeah, very easy to say, but also important to say, I think.
it is, and I have to honestly, because when I watched it in the cinema the first time, I really got emotional in that sequence. And I think there was a lady behind me. She said beautiful.
Oh,
She was like,
really?
yeah, the lady stood
That's
behind me. She was like,
amazing.
yeah, she was like beautiful, and it was
I'm
just
very
like,
happy with that.
yes,
Very happy with that. But it's the
yeah,
same
no.
as it's funny because I've been told that during the sex scene between Soo-ha and her boyfriend, we're actually not showing Soo-ha's body at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know who told me so, but it was kind of um, unusual at first to not focus on the female's body, but actually on the man's body at this moment. But I felt like it was very organic to the story to have it this way. So yeah, I don't know.
No, it was. Oh, and something else that I thought was a really interesting direction style. And I'm not sure if it was in the book or not, but it's like I noticed that Sua, she does a lot of drawing like around
Yeah,
people. Like she
yeah,
with her boyfriend, she like put her
yeah, yeah,
finger
yeah,
in
yeah.
it. And I
Exactly,
kind of saw that mimics the actual animation, not only
exactly.
from Kerrand, but the film itself. So I was like, she's always drawing people.
Yeah, and to be honest, actually, in some way, I was thinking to myself at some point, like when she's actually touching her boyfriend's uh, shape again. She's trying to define the shapes of bodies again. And so maybe this specific moment, she's kind of objectifying him, and somehow, like, there is some kind of fantasy of maybe she can modify his contour to make it do as Kerrand's. This is in in the confusion that she is into at this specific moment. But as you said, I like the fact that she could touch him like a sculpture kind of, and like if you could mold the person you're sleeping with, how would you do it? Yeah. So I thought it was kind of interesting to have her into this kind of wandering and weird wandering.
I like those moments. I didn't think of it as it's interesting that you say you kind of saw it as her like kind of molding him, because I kind of saw it as her being curious about, she's with
It,
this person she is, but she doesn't really know him and doesn't understand him.
it's funny because for me there is two different moments. There's a moment earlier in the film where she's actually doing this.
Mm,
He's from the back, so he cannot see her at this moment, and she is like just she's not even touching him, but like doing the contour of his shoulder.
yeah.
At this moment, I think she's more like curious, as you said, and then later on in the film, just before they're actually having sex together, she's doing it again on his face. And for me, at this moment, it's just because she knows that she is about to break up with him, and it's just a way for her like to kind of memorize his
Mhm.
shape before saying goodbye somehow. Yeah, this is how I feel. This is how I see it.
Oh, okay. I know you have to go, but thank you so much for taking the time for talking
No,
with
thank you
me,
very much.
Koya, and giving me more insights into the film, and I think into your filmmaking style, because I'm always curious about what inspires filmmakers and like finding connections from one project to the next. Because I think
Yeah.
I think filmmakers always sometimes subconsciously or consciously do put like little what's the word, breadcrumbs
Yeah,
in
yeah, I
there
see.
in each project and that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. So
yeah.
I kind of like looking for those breadcrumbs.
Well, I don't know if it's gonna be conscious or unconscious, but probably there will be some.
Thank you so much, Koya, and
Thank you very
congratulations to
much.
you and to the cast and
Thank you
crew.
so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.